January 2017, Los Angeles, the land of dreams. But for one family, this winter afternoon would turn it into the place of nightmares. A 16-year-old girl found her father slumped over in his chair by the pool, covered in blood. He had been stabbed to death. Fabio Sementilli, 49, was a celebrity hairstylist with a high-profile clientele. He and his wife of 20 years, Monica, lived a glamorous life in an affluent suburb of Tinseltown. In their luxurious house, complete with a pool and a Porsche parked in the driveway, they seemed to be living a fairy tale existence, untouched by strife or violence. But that violence was coming for them, whether they liked it or not. On the night of the killing, two mysterious strangers were seen running away from the property. Following a spate of robberies in the area, and with Fabio's Porsche missing, this seemed like a robbery gone wrong and turned lethal. This would be a horrific enough end to the fairy tale. But something darker was at play here. Over the course of a lengthy investigation and an extended trial, terrible secrets would come to light. Encrypted app communications, an adult film star, and an emotion so simple as greed. Here on the Decoder, let's dive into the twisted story of Monica and Fabio Sementilli. Before we get going, don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below to keep up with all the latest true crime cases like this one. Without further ado, let's begin. Fabio and Monica lived in Woodland Hills, Los Angeles. It's one of the most affluent suburbs in the area, home to some of the city's wealthiest residents. This was only befitting for Fabio's upscale lifestyle. Known affectionately as Big Daddy to the many hairstyling professionals he mentored, he had a stellar career.
Welcome to Hollywood.
Originally from Toronto, Canada, he went to the De La Salle College High School, but dropped out a year early, recognizing already, even at the age of 17, that he wanted to be a stylist. He was from a hard-working Italian immigrant family, and he showcased that same drive in getting his hairstylist certification in 1987 when he was 19. He opened a salon with his sister in their basement and remained grateful to her for the rest of his life. He talked about the importance of family in an interview for American Salon in 2015, just 2 years before his death.
For me, the first thing is my family comes first. My parents taught me that. I have sisters who I adore, and my own family unit is the most dear to me.
His family was everything to him, the motivator behind his successful career, and he had gone on to become very successful. He was a decorated competition hairstylist and salon owner, and he worked on several big Hollywood films doing hair for celebrities like Jackie Chan, Russell Crowe, and Jennifer Lopez. In 2007, Fabio became a creative director in Canada for hair care brand Wella, and he was promoted to creative director for the North American professional division in 2010. This role meant that he headed up education at Coty Professional Beauty, managing more than 500 employees and overseeing studios in Los Angeles, New York, and Toronto.
Leadership is not really about age either. It's about attitude.
He was a high flyer, but he was best known for his jovial, good-natured approach and being a caring mentor to all aspiring professionals he came across. This was always Fabio's intention.
You kind of sit in the backyard and I say to myself, what do I want to be remembered for? And I always say to myself, I want to be remembered for the relationships I built, for how maybe I've made people feel in a positive light. And if it was negative for any reason, it's because I was honest.
These were indeed the things Fabio would be remembered for after his death. What he didn't realize was that day would come much sooner than he could ever have imagined. On January 23, 2017, he was 49. He and his wife, 45-year-old Monica, had 2 daughters together, while he had 1 son from a previous relationship. It was their younger daughter, 16-year-old Isabella, who came home to find a scene that surpassed her worst nightmares. She'd spent the day at school, and then she had a job interview at a local Italian sandwich shop, continuing her father's tradition of working hard from an early age.
So what was your plans after leaving the interview?
I was gonna go straight home.
Did something interrupt that?
Yes.
Can you tell us what it was?
My mom called me and said that my prescription glasses were ready and that I could go pick it up.
Monica told Isabella to go and get her glasses before she came home. As a result, she was later than usual coming back to the house. Much later. This seemed like a fateful delay, but her beloved father was already beyond saving. She got back home at about 4:15 p.m. She noticed that her dad's Porsche was missing from the garage. This was the first sign that something was wrong.
I would enter the garage key code and the garage would open, and then I would go through the door that leads to the kitchen.
And the first thing you saw was your father, is that right?
Yes, there's a big window in the kitchen that you can see outside. So I opened the door and I saw him, what looked like him to just be sitting outside.
How long did it take you to realize that it looked like he had been attacked?
There was blood all over the kitchen. As I was walking in, I noticed it on the floor, on the walls, on the door.
Their idyllic poolside house had turned into a crime scene, and something awful had happened to her father. Isabella dropped everything and called 911. She was only 16, and she sounded terrified on the phone with the operator. As she was on the phone, her mom, Monica, arrived through the backyard. She helped Isabella try to resuscitate Fabio, but it was too late. The paramedics arriving just a bit after 5 p.m. pronounced him dead at the scene. He had been stabbed several times in the face, neck, and body. Initially, this seemed like a burglary gone horribly, tragically wrong. That was what the family believed, and what seemed most likely for a family of means like the Sementillis. In 2017, affluent areas of Los Angeles were beset with break-ins, operated by a pair of burglars known as the knock-knock burglars. When the police reviewed the surveillance footage from a neighbor's house then and saw two hooded figures running into the property, this seemed only to confirm the theory. The Sementilli's house had its own extensive security system, so the police expected to find a great deal more footage on which to base their investigation. But when they came to collect the hard drive where it was backed up, they found it missing. The killers had stolen it. Lacking any other material evidence, the police interviewed Monica. She said that she and Fabio had passed an ordinary day together at home, and she'd gone out to Target at around 3:30 p.m., leaving him alive.
You know someone following you, anything like that? Okay. And then so you left at 3:30 Target, and Ralph, what time did you get back? It was 5 o'clock.
All it took was an hour and 20 minutes, and her happily married life came crashing down. She was unbelievably lucky, or it was a strange coincidence. Many families have life insurance policies. It's not a red flag all on its own, but it is something the police make note of as a possible motive for murder. Monica denied that there was one out on Fabio. The police also make note of people's demeanor during interviews, and they made note of Monica's that day.
There was sobbing, there was visual cues of her being upset, but I did notice there were no tears.
However, people react to shock and grief in vastly different ways. Her husband had just been murdered. Perhaps she was just dealing with it the only way she knew how. And study of the neighbor's surveillance footage corroborated her story that she had indeed gone out that afternoon. This is her truck leaving the house. Their daughter, Jessica, left a little while later at 3:47 p.m. to go to a babysitting job her mom had organized for her.
Yes, that appears to be Jessica's vehicle, leaving, going northbound in Oakdale from Queen Victoria.
At 4:53 p.m., right after the time of the murder, Fabio's black Porsche was also seen driving away from the house, but it wasn't Fabio driving it.
It appears to be the vehicle that belonged to Fabio Sementilli, leaving.
Just a minute later, at 4:54 p.m., Isabella's car was seen returning home.
That was that red Fiat driven by Isabella.
She'd missed her dad's murder by mere minutes. At 5:03 p.m., Monica came back too. The timing was just too lucky. How could a random burglar have known that the house would be all but empty at that hour, in the middle of the afternoon, broad daylight, and what kind of coincidence did it take for the family to return just a few minutes later? There was another issue with the burglary theory too. Fabio had been wearing an $8,000 Rolex watch when he was killed. When his daughter found his body, the watch was still on his wrist. What kind of thief took the Porsche and the house's security recording system DVR, but left the Rolex behind? No, there was more to this case than met the eye, and the police knew it. They combed through the crime scene inch by inch, looking for clues, and they found one. There was blood present that did not match the DNA of Fabio or any of the other Sementillis. Instead, the DNA belonged to this man, Robert Baker. Robert was 54, a racquetball instructor at a local fitness center not far from the Sementilli's house. Born in Germany, he'd moved to the US when he was 3 and lived there ever since. His DNA was in the system because he was a registered sex offender. In 1993, he'd been convicted for lewd and lascivious acts with a minor, his stepdaughter. He'd previously been a staff sergeant in the Army, but was discharged as a result of this conviction. Since getting out on parole, he spent his time teaching LA's affluent population, including many celebrities, sports. He himself was living a very different life, sharing a house with a roommate and barely making ends meet. To this end, he also spent his time acting in adult films. If he'd been somehow involved in Fabio's death, money seemed to be the obvious motivator. Robert also knew the Sementillis. They were regulars at the fitness center where he worked, LA Fitness. He was even invited to Fabio's wake 6 days after his death on January 29th. Photos from the wake also show him with a bandage on his finger. Was this cut the source of the blood found at the crime scene? The police started surveilling Robert Baker as a serious suspect in the killing. In February, they asked Monica about people who might have visited or stayed at the house, including Robert, just in passing.
Rob is a ring director for a rap hall. I wasn't.
What's Rob doing?
She said she knew him only casually and didn't even remember his full name.
Before Fabio's death, had Paul ever been here? Never been here before.
There was no reason for Rob's DNA to be in the house, she said. The family didn't even know him that well, and yet, in all likelihood, he'd been in some way involved in Fabio's death. Meanwhile, Monica was getting anxious for news. She kept calling the police department, pressing for information about any leads they had, and also when the insurance policy money would be released, in contradiction with her denial that there was any such policy on Fabio's life. She'd contradicted herself on this even on the night of his death, when the family called Luigi, Fabio's son from his first marriage, to let him know what had happened. He talked to a neighbor on the phone, Deborah, who was also present.
So, when Deborah came on the phone with me, she said to me, Monica's freaking out about money, worried that they're not going to have money, and that there's money coming to me, and so that I would help them with the money that I was to receive, because they need the help.
Money was at the forefront of Monica's mind, and when she spoke to Luigi directly, she made it clear that he would benefit from his father's death.
The first words out of her mouth were regarding life insurance money. She says, there's money coming to you, lots of life insurance was up for grabs here. That was the message that was given.
He'd had no idea about any of this. He was in shock, and money was the last thing he wanted to be thinking about after his father had been murdered. But for Monica, it was almost an obsession. This was evident in one incident just before Fabio's death. He was murdered shortly before his 50th birthday. Monica had organized a golf trip for them and their friends to celebrate it, which obviously they never went on. She paid for it, and the friends would pay her back.
Did you in fact pay Monica a certain amount of money for this trip?
Yes.
How much money was that, if you recall?
I think it was around $3,000. So.
Each?
Yes, well, yes.
Did you ever get to go on that trip?
No.
Did the defendant ever return the money to you?
No.
Maybe it had slipped her mind in her grief, or maybe she'd kept all the money deliberately. When Luigi came down from Canada to discuss the arrangements, she showed him the life insurance documents.
She was looking at it, looking down, smiling at it, and even in this strange way, petting this piece of paper.
Which beneficiary was getting the largest portion?
Monica, the defendant.
So, there were two angles emerging to this case. On the one hand, there was the mysterious Rob Baker, tangentially connected to the family and linked to the crime scene by his DNA. On the other, there was Monica, whose fantastically wealthy husband had just died, leaving her with a substantial fortune of her own. She had the motive, while Rob had the opportunity. What remained was to find what connected the two. Monica was born on January 10, 1972, also a Toronto native. She met Fabio in 1997 at the salon he ran with his sister. She was a makeup artist and came to the salon as a customer, but quickly turned into something more. Fabio had been married before to Luigi's mother, whom he divorced in 1995. 2 years single, to Fabio, Monica represented an exciting new start, and to Monica, Fabio represented a successful future. His career was on the up, and he was on his way to becoming famous. She fell in love with him, and she fell in love with the glamour of the lifestyle they would lead together. They moved from Toronto to LA with their daughters in 2011. There, Monica had a few part-time jobs, but she spent the majority of her time handling the family's finances and organizing their schedules. They had a housekeeper, gardeners, and someone who looked after the pool. They lived a very privileged life. Monica liked to take advantage of this. The family went on many exotic vacations to places like Hawaii, Cabo, and St. Thomas. These trips were rewards as part of Fabio's work, one of the many perks that he gave the family.
For me, my family comes first.
Monica was just along for the ride. But is there such a thing as too much luxury? They say that money doesn't buy happiness. For Monica, maybe this was the case. She grew dissatisfied with her life with Fabio, despite all its opulent advantages. In 2015, she joined the racquetball league at LA Fitness in Canoga Park. She wanted to get in shape and meet new people, and she hired a personal trainer, a man named Matt Nurse. But Matt wasn't just a trainer to her. She downloaded pictures from his social media accounts and wound up asking him out for drinks. Matt turned her down, but she confided in him anyway.
She would talk about her kids, and then she told me she was unhappy in her marriage. She thought he was cheating on her. She said, why don't you just get a divorce?
And what did she say to you?
Why throw away 20 years?
Why throw away 20 years and a luxurious lifestyle when she could seek sexual fulfillment elsewhere anyway? Because, having failed with Matt, she turned her attention to other men at the gym, in particular, Robert Baker. In December 2015, she reached out to him to request racquetball lessons. She was already flirting in her email. They scheduled a lesson, and he gave her his phone number. The lesson must have gone well. Shortly afterwards, they started having an affair. And contrary to what Monica had told the police, she brought him back to the Sementilli's house. On one occasion, Monica and Fabio's daughter, Jessica, who was 17 at the time, even saw him.
I went to my mother's bathroom to take mascara or something because I like to do my mascara in her bathroom. And I didn't notice anything, but when I came out, I noticed Rob in her bed. She told me that he doesn't drink often. They had a party last night. Her friend Sheila, I think, they all came over, and he doesn't drink often. He got drunk, and so he slept it off.
It wasn't a small house. There were other beds, but Rob had slept in Monica's. It seemed a weak excuse. In reality, Rob and Monica had been sleeping together for months. Between January 2016 and January 2017, she called Rob over 9,000 times. He called her over 17,000 times. They were clearly head over heels for each other, and though Fabio was often away on business, Monica remained married, and that marriage was becoming an inconvenience. Rob later testified to this.
Did you keep, or did you endeavor to keep the sexual relationship with Monica Sementilli secret?
I did.
And was that her desire as well?
Yes.
How did you go about keeping it secret?
Every way possible.
They used an encrypted app, Viber, to keep their communications secret. Was this just to keep the affair from her husband? Or was there something else they didn't want a record of? Rob denied that Monica had had anything to do with her husband's death.
So did she ever tell you that she would divorce her husband for you?
We touched on it lightly, but I could tell that she wasn't going to do that. That wasn't going to happen.
And eventually, did that become one of the reasons why you decided to murder him?
I murdered him because I wanted her.
This was a story of infidelity and lovers' jealousy, right out of one of the movies filmed just around the corner in Hollywood. Monica fell into an affair with a dangerous man, and her husband paid the price. So Rob's claims went. There was another person involved in this killing regardless.
A gun was out of the question because it's too loud. Figured the best way to use was a knife.
His name was Christopher Austin. He and Rob had grown up together in North Carolina and had remained trusted friends even across geographical distance when Rob wound up in LA and Chris in Alaska. When Rob needed an accomplice to carry out a murder, Chris was top of his list. He paid for Chris's plane ticket down from Alaska, and the plan was born.
Signing off, and everything else has to...
On January 20th, he picked Chris up from the airport. Chris stayed with him in his house, and that night, Rob gave him a knife. It was a matter of finding the right opportunity. Rob claimed that he didn't ask Monica where Fabio would be, or when he would be alone at the house, or what the best way to get into this highly secure and gated community was. Instead, he just read between the lines of her texts.
Well, if she texts how you doing, babe, or something like that, usually when that happens, either he's getting ready to go somewhere or he's gone already. Because she's never going to text me or call me usually if he's around or he's in the house. It's never going to happen.
Monica told Rob that Fabio was going out to get food. So Rob dropped Chris off at this location, expecting him to kill Fabio on an isolated stretch of road. Rob realized he couldn't outsource this killing. He'd have to do it himself and involve Chris as a lookout so he wouldn't snitch. The opportunity presented itself again on January 23rd. Rob met Monica to play racquetball that day, an activity she hadn't mentioned to the police in her interview later that night, and claims he asked casually about Fabio's movements that day.
He said he was staying home. He'd been home.
And so Rob learned that Fabio would be alone in the house, alone and vulnerable to attack. He and Chris parked their car a mile or so away from the house. They wore hoodies to hide their faces from the cameras, and they jogged up to the house, both armed with knives. Chris stood watch outside, while Rob crept inside looking for Fabio. He found him on the back patio by the pool.
It just catching him off guard, that was all it was. When I approached him, he either heard me or he saw me. He turned around real fast, he yelled, and he grabbed me by my shirt, by my hoodie, by my chest. I tried to cut him the first time, I kind of lost track of everything then.
Fabio tried to fight back against this vicious, unprovoked attack. He was bigger than Rob, but Rob had a single, mindful, awful purpose.
And how many times did you stab Fabio?
I have no idea. I just kept on trying to cut. I just know I was moving until I felt him weaken, until I felt him let go of me.
Rob stabbed Fabio until he was dead. Then he had to cover his tracks.
First thing to try to do is start pulling out drawers and throwing clothes around to make it look like it was a home invasion.
Then he and Chris took the Porsche and fled the scene. They dumped it that same night, again trying to dispose of the evidence of what they'd done. But it contained blood. Blood whose DNA matched Rob. Rob, at least, wasn't getting away with this heinous crime. But was he telling the truth? Had it been only him and Chris involved in this killing? Had Monica had no idea? On the day of Fabio's murder, she and Rob exchanged 95 encrypted messages on Viber. That night, Rob deleted the app and all its data, trying to hide whatever they'd been saying on it. When the police were initially investigating, they asked for the passcode to her phone. She told them she couldn't remember it. In extreme shock, maybe this could be true for some people, but not for Monica. She was lying because the passcode was Rob's birthday. She clearly had deep feelings for him. She was in the habit of introducing herself as Monica Baker instead of Monica Sementilli. She claimed this was because Baker was easier to pronounce. She was apparently planning to buy him a house in Las Vegas, using the proceeds from Fabio's life insurance to do it. In the months following Fabio's murder, the police put both Monica and Rob under surveillance. On February 21st, the police followed them to a bar. They were seen kissing right outside. This was just a month after her husband's murder, and she wasn't exactly the image of the grieving widow. More damningly, on the day of the killing itself, she had indeed gone to Target, but she'd met Rob there. They had a conversation in the parking lot before she went inside the store to establish her alibi, and he drove off to commit murder. She was seen on Target CCTV glued to her phone as she browsed the aisles, checking her home security, waiting for an update on the crime she'd commissioned her lover to commit. In August, Monica and Rob were both arrested. They were arrested together deliberately. The police wanted to hear what they'd say to each other and if they'd reveal anything further about the crime. In lockup, they were like Bonnie and Clyde.
I think we should get married.
They were also scrambling for a way out of their situation.
They're listening, they're watching, and they're digging for anything they could use, anything.
While in jail, the pair conducted explicit phone calls, continuing their relationship even behind bars. Rob claimed that Monica, at this point, had no idea that he'd killed her husband, even though this was the very crime they'd been arrested for. This really stretched belief. They also tried to argue that Monica had cut Rob's hand when they were playing racquetball on the day of the murder, and she'd used her own towel to clean it up, which was why his blood was in her house that day. But this didn't explain the blood in Fabio's stolen Porsche. No, instead the truth was becoming clearer by the day. The police discovered an email dating from June 2016 when Monica sent Rob the login details of her home security system, and they suspected that she'd shown him where the physical DVR was kept. This enabled him to find it and remove it on the day of the murder, disposing of the evidence. Rather than an innocent bystander, robbed of her husband by her lover, Monica was a vital participant and even instigator in this horrible crime. The police spent the next few months looking for Rob's accomplice, the other man in the hoodie on the neighbor's CCTV. Initially, they suspected a man named Al Birdsong, a friend of Rob's who lived in Texas, but he had a watertight alibi, and eventually they found Chris Austin in October 2017. They connected Chris to Rob through phone and bank records, and when they brought him in, he folded. He pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and the personal use of a knife in exchange for his testimony against Rob and against Monica.
I remember Baker saying she's going to come into some money. He tried to get me to come down earlier and I couldn't.
Chris said that Rob had tried to get him to come down from Alaska earlier in December 2016. Rob implied that this would be financially advantageous for both of them, and it had something to do with Monica and Fabio. Money, not jealousy, was at the heart of this killing. Money and Monica's increasing distaste for the man she'd married. Rob told Chris all of this.
I realized that she don't like him, so she don't want to be with him no more, but she wants him gone.
Involved in this conversation, too, was Al Birdsong, the former prime suspect for Rob's accomplice. He didn't appear to have had an active role in the killing, but Chris said he was there when they were discussing it, making it a conspiracy of 4.
This conversation is occurring. Are you under the clear impression now that it is to kill this woman's husband?
Yes.
Did you have an opinion who wanted it done?
Yes.
Who?
Monica wanted it, the wife wanted it done, I'm sorry.
Rob first told Chris that Monica didn't like her husband because he was abusive towards her. After the killing, however, he backtracked. He told Chris that she just wanted the insurance money. Chris also poked holes in Rob's story of the murder itself. Rob said that Fabio had spotted him and struggled for his life, but Chris said he didn't really get the chance. Chris told the police that Rob was in constant phone communication with Monica all that day, planning the murder. And in the weeks after the murder, she searched the Google query, "Do the police have the right to tap my cell phone?" She had a guilty conscience and a hunger for money. Money she'd never see, as the police interceded and got the insurance company to delay the payout. She schemed to get her children out of the house, manipulate the security system, and inform Rob of her husband's whereabouts for nothing. After Chris's guilty plea, the dominoes were falling. Rob also pleaded guilty, but he refused to roll on Monica. He claimed that he'd been acting entirely without her knowledge, as if trying to protect her. He was called as a defense witness in her trial, but his conviction actually worked against her. Because he'd been sentenced to life in prison without parole, he had nothing to lose, and so the prosecution argued there could be no penalty if he perjured himself to save her, but his lies on the stand didn't work. It's unknown whether charges will be brought against Al Birdsong, but 3 of the 4 members of this horrific conspiracy now face justice. Rob, sentenced to life in prison without parole, and Chris and Monica both now awaiting sentencing. Together, they schemed to murder Fabio Sementilli, a charismatic professional and loving father, and tear a family apart.
Life is not about how hard you get hit, but life's about how hard you can get hit and still keep on going.
Now, his children continue to try to rebuild their lives, with Isabella following in her father's footsteps to become a hairstylist in Hollywood. What do you think about this tragic story? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, stay safe, keep up with our channel, and we'll see you very soon on the Decoder.